Hi everyone. Good to see you today, being the last day for the session. And we yesterday we talked about things we're gonna do today, so we have an outline. So without much ado, we just go straight to our presentation. A minute plus just to, if you don't have the data yet, just talk about your ideas. So we start with I think we have Teacher Piwa, we have Ozioma, we have Monica. So we can start in that order. So I can pull up your work from here. So who want to go first? You can indicate in the chat or just talk so that we just give it a go.
Yes, Teacher Pure, can you start?
Okay, so Teacher Piwa, let me pull up your work and then you give it a go. Or do you have it open on your system so you share it?
Please help pull it up for me.
Okay, so
Next.
um let me just do that. Teacher Piwa. Okay. What's the title again, please? What's the title of your work?
Um, Zimbabwe's heritage-based learning in the digital age.
Okay, okay, okay. So, um, let me share my screen right now. And I think I save it in the catalog. Okay, and I go to the catalog and I think, okay, it should be in my own. Okay, Zimbabwe. Okay. Is this Zimbabwe's heritage-based learning in the digital age?
Yes.
Okay. So it's up. You can speak to it or tell us what you're planning to do.
Yes. Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes. Since the education is widely recognized in all forces of life from primary to tertiary levels in Zimbabwe, quite a lot has been done in reforms in education. And in this project, I intend to see how graduates are also going to be helped, and in the curriculum, the five key pillars of culture, education, innovation, and economy, including even the sustainability of the curriculum, and also how the learners will be helped in the inclusion of games and the interactive ways in the technologies. And I'll also look at the benefits of this heritage-based curriculum to both to quite a number of groups of people, the learners, the educators, and even the curricular panelists, so that they focus on the importance of innovations and how games are also going to be included or involved in the interaction.
Okay.
So, in shortly, that's what I will be aiming at in this gamification, education, the economy, the curriculum, and culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Well, you're muted, sir.
Yeah, sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, so I guess first I have some questions. Can you tell me what is the
I
document? Can you tell me what the document is that you brought in that you made a corpus out of? Is this the sort of official government curriculum document?
Um, Teacher Piwa,
Y-
the corpus, the
Yes.
documents that you focused on,
Mm-hmm.
what are they? Is asking like, is a government document you're looking at the curriculum?
Yes, it's a summary of the education-based curriculum.
And so you're trying to understand what the priorities of the government are by studying this document?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at this word cloud here, and as you said, you've got the word games, so
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. Virtuals and VR. So it
Mm-hmm.
looks like there's a lot of digital technology is in this, but I see the word engagement, which
Mm-hmm.
might be interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I see the word heritage, and
Mm-hmm.
it'd be interesting to see if they talk at all about heritage games or games about what we call here in Canada, we call them serious games. They're sort of games that are designed to educate. Because you can either have games that are normal entertainment games that are used to teach something, or there are games that are designed for education. And I see the word augmented under educational. I see the word augmented. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if the idea is also to bring in augmented reality so that people can explore, you can use your cell phone to explore what we call locative games, where you walk around and your cell phone can tell you about the heritage of wherever you're walking.
Yes, yes. I intend to also include those.
So
So,
another thing I would suggest is that text analysis always works well when you compare things.
mm-hmm.
Some ways, statistics about a text don't mean anything until you can compare one text with another. And I don't know if it's possible for you to get an earlier curriculum document from 10, 20 years ago, and then compare this one to that one. And then you can show that, not 10 years ago, there was no language about games or virtual reality or augmented reality. Instead, 10 years ago, maybe there was a lot of discussion about math skills or something like that. So you can show what has changed from 10 years ago to here. So you create a corpus of two documents. Or if you can get more than one curriculum document, you could have a corpus of three or four, and you could show how the curriculum has changed over time, how the ideas about the curriculum have changed over time. Does that make sense?
Very much. Thank you very much, Prof. I had not thought of that. Thank you.
Are
Um,
there, I guess one last thing is, have there been people who have been critical of this curriculum? Have there been like newspaper editorials saying, we shouldn't have all this gamification. We should focus on artificial intelligence or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of comments are happening from various sectors from various groups of people, including the great stakeholders, the parent, and those that support the curriculum innovations and review. But I think the comparison will work much better in this way.
Yeah, so you could grab a representative sample, grab 5 newspaper editorials. If there's a parents association who have written a commentary, grab a sort of parents association. And again, it comes back to comparison. You could try to compare, how does the parents association, how do these different stakeholders talk about the curriculum? Because there might be interesting differences between the teachers union and the parents association. They might have different opinions, and you might be able to compare and show the differences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anyway, those are just some thoughts, and good luck with this project. I hope, and this is for all of you. Please send me a link, and I'm always happy to look at these projects. And if your project is ever published, make sure to send me and Augustine information, and because we'll put it up on the consortium so that people can come and look at it as an example of what to do.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you, Prof.
So I've updated some of those things, and you can always have access to it. All right, let's take the next person. Who is going next? So that I won't have to call people.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go.
Augustine, can I
Yes, yeah, who is
say?
that? Oh, so that I know the voice. Who want to go now? Is that Ozioma?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. So let me look for your work. Ozioma, that is what's the title again? Sorry.
Exploration of something on climate change.
Okay, so let me okay, stop sharing and just go to okay. Um, do you have your system there so that you
My system is there, but the network is really bad, so I'm using the mobile phone to talk.
okay, you have the file. If you have that the HTML file from it, the HTML file for the Spyral notebook,
Okay.
do you have it? So that you can just send that to me on WhatsApp.
Okay, let me send it to you on WhatsApp.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. I can share screen. Open, select the file, and climate change analysis. Okay.
Yes, climate change analysis, something like that. Okay, isn't it?
Yep. So it's up. So you have the floor.
All right. Okay, so thank you so much. Okay, so for this project, the major motivation is there's this thing that is going on, that climate change is being politicized. Like one expert say that climate change is not being given much attention as when we had global warming, because a lot of politicians are feeling that maybe climate change is a false, like Trump normally says that climate change is actually not true, that people are trying to use it to maybe make money out of it or rip off people. So my major interest for going into this is to identify if there are actually some changes in the use of vocabularies or words to conceptualize climate change, maybe over time. But as I was collecting this data, there was a time I just played, a little bit with Voyant tools to look at maybe some changing trends in the use of words. I noticed that from 2020, that's the during of time of COVID, that there is a drastic drop in the use of the word climate. in the speeches delivered by the Secretary General, that is Antonio Guterres, right? So there was this massive drop in the use of the word climate, yes, as you can see in the trend too, so it was like something happened when what do you call it, when COVID came in, as if maybe like people's reality about climate change, altered, or I don't know. So after going through, some other times, I equally discovered that there is more focus on things related to finance. Like if you check finance, you notice that from 2020, like maybe 2018, 2019 speeches, that use of word finance dropped is not much, but since that 2020, it has started climbing. It was as if the focus now, I don't know, I can't establish now, but it's like they are no longer looking at maybe telling people about climate change, like to discourage the things that cause it, like the use of fossil fuels. That word equally dropped. You notice that the use of word gas, energy, fossils, they all dropped immediately after 2020, or rather from 2020. So what I want to find out is, does it mean that they actually believing that climate change is not real, or are they looking at it that maybe people's reality, like maybe when you tell people more about gaining from preventing climate change, maybe the financial gains that you get if you do things that will not cause climate change, maybe they are looking at it like convincing people through the financial pathway instead of, looking at the climate change pathway. And I actually noticed that something like renewable energies, there are a lot of changes in words. So now what I'm looking at, is I want to base the project on this Sapir-Whorf theory of linguistic relativity, which says that the words you use, the language you speak, actually speaks about your reality, your perception, your belief, your experience, your culture. Okay, and now based on that theory, I want to like segment the corpus into maybe three. One that has to do with finance, another one that will do with politics. I noticed that politics, anything related to politics like government policy, they dropped after 2020. So now finance, politics, and the climate related terms, I'm looking at how I can maybe categorize those words into three and then look at their trends from 2018 to 2021. Now, 2018, the data I was actually assessing is United Nations repertoire on these Guterres speeches. Okay, I want to focus on his speeches because I know he's a very important personnel when it comes to global politics and the rest of them. Okay, so now that 2018-2019 pre-COVID period, 2020 at the heat of the moment of the COVID period, and then 2021 after COVID. So these three basic categories, are there changes? If there are changes, what could be the reason for the changes? Is it truly that climate change is not real? Or are they trying to like conceptualize it through another pattern as a way of convincing people to, prevent, to stop doing whatever it is that is causing climate change? And please, like I always tell Austin, I'm new to coding and I'm still learning Spyral. So I'm taking it a step at a time. Thank you.
So first of all, I just want to tell Augustine. I think you see where you have document terms. Can you go down to document terms?
Okay.
And then can you add a parameter? What you want to do with document terms, no, don't search for something. Up in the actual code, you need to, after document terms, you need to put a
Okay.
comma
Okay.
and then doc index. Yes, so doc index. No, not ID, index.
Okay. So
There you go. And then colon. And I'll explain why I'm doing this in a second. So put a colon. No, no, you don't want that a colon. No, not a colon.
Okay.
You need to get rid of those parentheses. Colon. You know the colon is right above the semicolon.
Oh, oh, my brain. Oh, column.
Here, I'll put in the chat what I want.
Okay. First column. Okay.
Colon, and then let's put 0. So
Okay.
what we're going to do is we're going to use the document terms to look at yeah, and then run it. And then I want you to click on to click on where it says trend on the far right on the label. Yeah, on the far right where there's a down arrow.
Okay.
No, the down no, go to the far right.
Okay. Far right. Yes, this
In
is
the label, there's the down arrow.
okay.
In the you have to stay in the label. Just move your pointer in the label trend to the far right of the no, no, you're going down. I want you to go to the right.
Okay. So in the
Yeah.
label of train, there is
Yeah,
an
yeah. And
arrow
you see that
here.
down arrow. Click on the down arrow.
Yes.
And where it says columns, click on columns.
Yes.
And then pull down and click on significance.
Okay.
So what this will do, and then click on significance and sort it descending.
Okay. So descending.
No, no, not there. You have to go now to the label for significance. You've added the column significance. There you
Okay.
go. Yeah, descending.
Descending.
So what this does is it will show you the words which are the TF-IDF. It'll show you the words which are significant in this document compared to the other documents. And so if, for example, so this is 2018 because the 0 index is the first, we've got 4 documents, 18, 19, 20, 21. If you now type 3 in where it says doc index, so we look at these words and type 3 and rerun it. And you're going to have to go through that process of getting the significance column all over again. Yeah, I'm sorry about there is a way there is a way to actually tell it to show the significance column.
So
Did you do descending?
yes, I did.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is we can compare the language, which is the 2021 language to the 2018 language. So it looks like in 2021, he's still talking a lot about COVID and pandemic and vaccines. And so one thing that you might want to think of doing is to actually gather the 2022 documents to have one more year. But anyway, so let me step back a second and say that this is a fabulous project. One of the things I like that you've done is you've put your abstract up at the top, so you're documenting what you're doing. You've then created. I was talking a moment ago about the importance of comparison. You've created this corpus of 4 documents, so you can compare in effect before COVID and after COVID. And then what you're doing is you're forming hypotheses. So you've got an interesting. If you scroll down to the trends further down, yeah, you've got an interesting. You've got a statistical fact, but it's always up to you, the interpreter, to figure out why that is the case. Why did the word climate and climate change drop? And you're now beginning to draw up hypotheses, and you've got a couple of different hypotheses, which I find really interesting. One of them is that climate change continues to be an issue, but is articulated differently. Another one of your hypotheses is that people's experience, and it sounds like you even have a good sort of theoretical background, people's experience during COVID of unemployment or precarious employment meant that words like finance, their financial situation became more important. And as a result, Guterres and the United Nations began to respond to what people were experiencing, which was precarity. So now the question becomes, can you use Voyant Spidal to sort of figure out what might be some of the differences? So one thing I've shown you is how to use the significance column in document terms. So just to give a bit of background, in Voyant, you can see the corpus terms, which are the words of the entire corpus, but the document terms allows you to see the words of a particular document, in your case, the individual years. And the significance column allows you to sort that document. And it seems to me, did you for doc index 3, did you sort that? They're all zeros. Did you sort that descending?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, there we are. So
Oh,
oh no, this is doc index 3. Okay, so it's
okay.
still,
Yeah, that's what I did.
so what you want to do is you want to sort of compare the language in between 18 and 21 and see if there are words. I think you want to put 0 in there.
Hmm.
To see if there are words that are more prevalent. What are the words that are more prevalent? And that can be useful. The other thing I would do is actually look at the collocates. To take your keywords like climate and look at what words co-locate around the word climate or around the phrase climate change, because that might give you some hints about what's happening with climate change. But do the same thing with finance. What words co-locate around finance, and it might be that you can start developing a theme, a set of words. So climate change, sustainability, it might be that you can sort of put together a theme that is more complicated than one word or one phrase, and then begin to try to follow those themes across your collection. And as I suggested before, you might also add 2022, just because my guess is in 2021, there's still a lot of discussion of COVID. So just adding 1 year might help. Is that helpful?
Yes, sir. Very, very helpful, sir. Thank you so much.
It looks
Thanks
like
so
a
much.
great project, and I like that you're documenting it. You're seeing interesting anomalies, you're developing hypotheses. And with text analysis, you always want to test your hypotheses, and if possible, test it by some other technique. We're always, text analysis is showing you statistical correlations. It's not showing you the truth. It's showing you symptoms, if you will, and you always want to test that against and ask questions about it so that you can build a stronger argument.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Thanks.
so much, sir. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. This updated version, I will send it to you so that you'll be able to follow up. Okay, the next person that dropped in the chat is Monica. So Monica, just a minute. I'll pull up your work. Okay. So let's go back to. Okay, let me just open Voyant slash Spyral. Check account. Okay, Monica.
It was to do with the data governance
Okay, the
framework.
data
Yes.
governance. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Augustine. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I've put my camera on. I couldn't do it from my laptop. I had to go and pick my children from school. So I'm still in the car. Well, that's not the part of the presentation today. So, I have a project that I have been working for about 3 months now, trying to gather the data. And then, because this training then came along, and I thought I could utilize this training to then for this project that I was doing. So as you're aware that Zimbabwe just recently gave their or started using the Data and Cyber Protection Act, and they've got various regulations and all those things about that. Now, but the problem is, I wanted to assess how ready are we for this thing. So I conducted various researches along the lines of the Data and Cyber Protection Act. One of it was to gather which companies are coming on board for their staff to be trained and for this concept. So I created a data set of showing which companies have sent how many people. Are they from ICT background? Are they from legal background? Then I also gathered another data where I then went on to say, okay, let's look into specifically of our critical infrastructure, our finances, our security, our water, sanitation, all these things. And then I managed to do about 37 interviews that I have recorded as videos, and I've also done the transcriptions using the Teams. It's just unfortunate that because of the way the time it was taking for all this clearance, I didn't manage to really upload the data set there. But the project that I have in mind is about that. And I think the abstract is actually doing justice to what I want to do. So I've got various data set that I need to upload and then see how it starts moving.
So, my first thought again, this looks like a very interesting project. I like that you started by putting in an abstract. This is that concept of literate programming. You want to stay focused on what your research is. You don't want to, you don't, the point is not just to play with the tools, but to actually, have an idea of what it is you're doing. Voyant could be very interesting um, for studying the interviews, especially. I want to ask you some questions. Were these structured interviews where you asked the same questions, or were these interviews unstructured?
So I do have an interview guideline that I prepared. I think this one is, yes, this is the one that is showing right now on the screen. I had actually two projects that I started working with, but this one is something I've been working for over 3 months, and the other one just came when we were discussing about this training, the Voyant training. So I did drafted a structured questionnaire. It's a set of 22 questions that revolves around asking how are they looking into the compliance? How do they have the various data security aspects structured in their organization? How do they have data access methods done? How do they have, what kind of policies and frameworks do they have? How do they make sure that their data is accurate, is complete? If there's an incomplete data, how do they then do the filling of that incomplete data? So it's a structured question. That same questions were asked in the same sequence to all the 37 participants for so far.
Excellent. So, what you could do once you've got the transcripts is you could prepare a spreadsheet where, each column is the answer to one of the questions, and each row is a different interviewee. You might also add some rows, which are sort of metadata about the interviewees. So you might have a row, what company do they work for, or what type of position do they hold? Are they a programmer or a government official? I don't know. Um, and then what you can do, and I'm going to put, we have some online training materials for Voyant, which is called Dialogica.
Okay.
So I just put that in, and if you go to that, let me, sorry, it's not HTTPS, it's HTTP. Here, I'll give you There's a longer at here. You can also go, there's a longer URL there. So if you go there, you'll see that there's a series of contents, and there's one of them, number 5, which is walkthrough 4. So managing corpora with spreadsheets or XML. That will show you how you can import your spreadsheet in different ways. You could, for example, decide you were going to group all of the let's say you did interviews with 3 types of people: government officials, civil society, people in privacy organizations, and companies. And if you had a column which has civil society, government, company, you could group the interview text by the type of person. So you could get 3 documents. One document would be all the civil society people, and then you could begin to compare the language. What are the company people talking about compared to what the government officials are talking about? But you can also cut it in other directions. You could sit there and you could bring in only the answer to question number 3 if you want to look at, or you could compare the answer to question number 3 to question number 4. So you can slice and dice this in many different ways.
All right.
That might give you a good way of sort of doing a sort of in-depth study of the in-depth study of the actual spreadsheet of the interviews. So that's one
All
thought I
right.
have. Um, I think what you're doing is very important because it's one thing to have these regulations. It's a whole nother thing how they get rolled out and implemented. Are there any teeth to the regulation? If a company doesn't abide by the privacy regulation, does anything happen to them?
Um, thank you, Prof.
Yes, there are data set. Also, I do have more like a sentiment analysis sheet where I've managed to gather the from the Twitter handle various sentiments that were expressed, plus also those who are certified and how are they handling a problem that comes. I also have that data set with me. So
Very
I'm
interesting.
hoping to have many directions to bring into the whole concept of, like you said, the rolling out, and also seeing, the other side. Regulators are good, regulations are good, but there's always another side, another picture of it. So I hope I will be able to also bring out those.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you've got a really rich project. You've got a lot of different types of evidence. This sounds like and of course it's very important how these things get rolled out. It's one thing to have a really good law. It's in some ways it's the implementation that becomes very important, and the implementation over time.
I have a
Thank
question.
you for that.
Ah,
Also, there was another one that I had done on the climate discourse. So we have been working with my colleague here, Take Mo Mazaruse and Dr. Rich Mo Marundedze. And Bhupilo, she's also part of here, where we were trying to look into how, everybody in the world is talking about climate change. But I was looking into a direction of machine learning, how we can then harness the data and kind of see how to predict, kind of predictive analysis or something like that. Although I'm yet to then see how best we can suit in with the buoyant tools that we are learning about it.
okay.
So I'll tell you about a project that I'm just working on right now. Augustine is also part of this larger project. We're looking at, and this is a case where we're using large language models and Voyant together. So we have we have a whole mess of Trump's executive orders having to do with immigration. So since the inauguration in January until July 4th, he issued a whole series of executive orders having to do with immigration policy. And it's very, so we got about 45 of them. And this is just in between January and July. So it's just February, March, April, May, June, 5 months, 45. He's been hard at work. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to figure out, how could we classify them? So we took these 45, we made a spreadsheet. And I don't know, Augustine, can you share with me, and I can try to show what we did.
Sure. I'm going straight to anyone can share. Um, kidding. And
And you'll keep me honest here, Augustine, if I'm going over. I tend to talk too much, so
no, Prof. I was just only trying to chip in something initially about our data set. They were unable to enter the Spyral notebook because it's 500 megabytes. So that's what I wanted to ask you when I was sorry.
right. So this is the spreadsheet that we developed. So here we have the number of the executive order. Here we have the title of the document. This is the actual date of authorship. It's in a long form here, the year, month, day, and then we have it has a date stamp. The date stamp is immaterial. We have the full text. So this is the part that is in some ways interesting. I mean, it looks sort of small there, but the point is we actually have the full text. These executive orders are maybe 4 or 5 pages each. And I could actually, if I'm playing around right, I can show you the full text. Well, anyway, I'm not gonna bother with that. There you are. So you can see that we've got the full text of this. And then what we did is we passed this spreadsheet first to ChatGPT, and I told ChatGPT I gave it a it's getting very annoying here because now it's showing me the full text. But anyway, I gave it a prompt where I said, "You are a political science student, a political scientist. I want you to look at all these executive orders, and I want you to develop a classification scheme, and then I want you to go through and classify each one of the executive orders." And I did this first with ChatGPT and then with Gemini. And that's what we've got. And then I said, I want you to add to the spreadsheet, I want you to add a primary and a secondary column. So the ChatGPT did that, and that's why we have here, it sort of created a set of, national security, law and order. I apologize if this is hard to read. There's a lot of stuff here. And then I did the same thing with Gemini. And so then we have Gemini's sort of bureaucratic alignment and control. So they have Gemini developed slightly different categories. And now we can use these categories. First of all, we can develop our own categories, sort of double checking these. And then we can use these categories to group the executive orders. And we can begin to look at the differences between executive orders that have to do with national security and sovereignty versus executive orders that maybe have to do with some other topic. I mean, most of these have to do with law and order and so on like that, or national security. So there isn't an enormous amount of difference, but we also have crisis and urgency framing. So we have rhetorical categories. Anyway, I'm going to stop there, but my point is that this is an example where you can use language models to help categorize documents, and you can also use them to extract things like summaries. from documents, and then you can use those with Voyant. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Prof. And thanks, Monica. The old thing is just there's a file that is 500 megabytes CSV. And that was what I was trying to open with Excel, which couldn't, but she wanted to get it into the Spyral notebook. And there's a kind of a challenge, could it be size, or I just want to confirm, or is the data structure?
No, 500 megabytes is too big.
Okay.
I think the largest I've been able to bring in is 100 megabytes, but also 500 megabytes sounds to me like something's wrong with the file.
Okay.
I mean, if she has 22 questions and I don't know, 30 different interviewees, that shouldn't be 500 megabytes.
Okay.
No, I don't think that's the file for 500. That's not the file for the data governance as yet.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, all right, that's fine. Yeah.
But maybe maybe Monica, once you've got your spreadsheet, if you want to send it to us, we can take a look at it and try to load it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're having trouble, we can try to load it and create a sort of simple Spyral notebook with it loaded in different ways that you can then fork and start playing with.
I think that will be grateful. I just need to anonymize it a lot because these are actually real data set. They are not fabricated data set that I collected. So I just need to make sure that I have left no place where there is any issue of anonymization coming on. Then I'll be able to send. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's important. That especially since you're dealing with issues of privacy and so on like that, you need to be. And I should tell you, in Voyant, there is actually a way to set up an access password. So we can, even after you've anonymized it, we can also set up an access password so that only only you can get access to the Voyant corpus.
Thank you. And Malika, you want to
Thank you
go?
so much.
Malika, give us a shot and let's a presentation a minute or two, and that'll be great. I'm putting up your screen now. All right. Malika, yeah. Go ahead, please. Oh, have we lost Malika? Is she still here? Okay, Malika is not here. And where's Charity? Charity Anson, do you want to give it?
Hello, I'm here. Good day.
Oh, you're here. All right. Please go ahead, doctor.
Yes, thank you. Okay, this project that I've been trying to work on, it's on a comparative analysis of traditional and digitally enhanced forms of Yoruba court poetry. Essentially, Yoruba court poetry, by court here we mean palace, the palace of Yoruba monarchs. That's what I'm referring to as court. And usually they have palace poets, established palace poets that are spread to chant the praises of these kings and their genealogy. And so many times they chant the praises or the genealogy of the monarchs, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly. And sometimes these established palace poets have to stay in the palaces, sometimes to also inform the monarch about the arrival of a visitor before the monarch gets to see the person. So that's the nature of Yoruba court poetry, but generally. So it's essentially a form of Yoruba oral poetry that is expected to be residents in the palace. But in contemporary times, I've seen that there are some freelance chanters who are not residents in any palace or linked to any palace, also chanting some of these palace poems. And usually they chant the palace poems on social media platforms like YouTube, sometimes Instagram, TikTok, and all of those things. So they are not residents in any palace, they are not linked to any palace, but they get their data from the chants of the established palace poets and then do their own composition and chanting. So what I'm trying to do here is to see if there is some sort of difference between what the established palace chanters compose and perform and what the freelance chanters compose. So I'm trying to do is get the data from the established palace chanter of the Ooni of Ife and one of the freelance chanters, Suleiman Ayilara Aremu, popularly known as Ajubiewe, and compare these two in order to see if there is any distinguishing characteristics or functional markers. Are there differences? Is there a way in which the freelance chanters have deviated from the norm of what the established palace chanters are used to? Because apart from this, I also thought that some established palace chanters, because they do not want to be displaced by the freelancers who are more popular because they are online and all. Some established palace chanters now post their palace poetry, the court poetry, now post it on social media platforms. So it makes the idea of the space, the expected space of the court poetry or the palace poetry kind of difficult. So essentially what I'm trying to do is to see if there's any difference between what we get online, that's both the chant from the freelancers that they post online, as well as the chant from the established palace chanters, and what the chants that are available in the palaces.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get the data for these three different forms, because of course we know that the nature of social media platforms may not give room for some kind of the kind of extended chants that palace poets are used to. Some of them can chant the praises of the genealogy of their monarchs for like an hour or two. But we know that in many social media platforms, the amount of gigabytes or even video quality that can be posted is limited. So are all of this going to affect the um the kind of performance that we see online? So
Thank you,
I'm trying to get three different data. One from the ones that are actually produced and performed in the palaces, then by the established palace chanters, then the ones that these established palace chanters have posted online, some of the performances that are online, and then I also want to get the data from freelancers that are also available online. All of these would now be compared using Voyant.
Thank
I've
you.
got
Thank
the
you.
data from
We
for
need to
the
take 1 minute, please, because of other people. So thank you very much.
okay.
Let's get a feedback from Prof, and then let's
All
take
right, thank
1
you.
minute or two so that we can be able to cover that. Thank you. Sorry.
All right.
All right.
That's fine.
Well, this sounds like a fascinating project, and it sounds like you've conceived it well. The idea, this court poetry sounds fascinating, and it sounds like you figured out how to build a corpus with the three different types of, the court poetry, the non-court poetry, but by court poets, and then the sort of open stuff. So you really, in some ways, you want to create three documents. One document is just the court. One document is the court poets, but outside the court, and then the third one would be the non-court poets, the transcripts that you get from YouTube. Um, Ideally, you want to get a number of poems from each one. So you want to have, not just one poem, because then it's hard to, if you're just comparing three different poems, it's not going to be, you can't really talk in general about court poetry versus non-court poetry. So you want to, if possible, build a corpus of multiple poems of each type. And then you bring that into Voyant as a corpus with three documents, and you can start doing comparisons. And I think you've already put your finger on some of the things that could be compared. So, for example, you could compare language about space. Does the court poetry talk differently about space? I see right in your abstract, you've got some other interesting issues like is gender talked about differently? Identity, colonialism, decoloniality. Are there different topics and subjects? So this sounds like a cool project, and I look forward to hearing more about it. And yeah, so I'll stop there.
Thank you. So we still have some things to be taught today. So let's confirm who are those people who still want to. You can just give it a shot, and if not, then we'll move to the next to training. Yinka, are you there? Do you want to take your own work? And who else? Just Yinka and Charity
Yes,
remains. Um, that's
yes,
all.
I'm here.
All right. So let me pull up your work, and please, I will employ that we stick to just a minute or two.
Okay.
So that will really help us to be able to get feedback and still move on to. Okay. I think we have your work. I've loaded your purpose, I mean, we have your script. Speak to it, please.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Because I decided to stay somewhere on my way now just to speak about it. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, my research is focused on using traditional music healing practices among the older adults in Nigeria, particularly using group singing of indigenous Nigerian songs to improve the well-being of older adults. And we all know it, like in other communities, the older population in Nigeria, they face social isolation, cognitive decline, and reduced emotional well-being, particularly those in the rural communities. And um, and also they do not really have access to structured mental health and recreational programs. And if you look at internationally, there have been a lot of studies that have been documented about how singing has helped to enhance mood, cognitive functions, social connections among older adults. But little is actually being known about singing indigenous Nigerian songs in cultural settings. So I want to look at the roles of traditional music healing practices, specifically among the older adults, and how it helps to promote the well-being of older adults, especially those, facing isolation, depression, cognitive decline. And also some of these cultural practices, singing, these are um, they are culture that some of them are actually going to extinction. We are losing some of these tradition. So also see how this can actually be uh, documented, preserved, and also the combination of how this preserving these cultural practices and how it is measurable to provide health benefits.
Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
So very interesting, and it strikes me as very important. You're trying to make an intervention that is timely. This is the world over. We have aging population, we have isolation, dementia. My own father was very isolated and began to suffer sort of cognitive impairment and so on like that. It's a real problem. And I really like the idea of bringing back these these group singing practices and so on like that. Um, it seems to me, I'm guessing that your corpus is made up of a number of academic articles, or maybe also policy documents or documents that just describe different practices and so on like that. So what you've built is probably a useful database of research, which you can use to sort of draw on as you try to make the case and argue. I'm not sure. It sounds to me like what you need to do, you know, is to actually get out on the street, so to speak, and start creating some of these groups, facilitating. And I imagine you're already doing that. You're already either working with organizations or yourself trying to bring together people to sing. And then what you might consider doing is interviewing some of the people. Here you have to be careful, like Monica before. You have to be careful when you interview to respect their privacy and so on like that. But you might, in interviewing both participants, but also interviewing people who lead these groups, community organizers who are organizing these, or family members. You might get different perspectives on what works and doesn't work, and it might help you identify the best practices and so on like that. So those are just some ideas that I have. But a side of me wants to say, Voyant, you shouldn't use Voyant. You should be out there on the streets, helping. I think what you're doing is great, and in some sense, sometimes we get so caught up in the academic side that we forget to actually do the activist side, and that's what I like about your project is there's an activist component to actually make a difference.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You've convinced me that I'm getting older too, and I worry about my cognitive decline and loneliness. And you actually reminded me that I need to join a choir or something like that, and myself. I'm not a very good singer, but that's the nice thing about a group singing situation is you don't have to be that good.
Yeah, and in some of the traditional settings here in Nigeria, they love group singing activities, either in festivals, traditional festivals, and some of these things are actually not documented in relation when compared to choirs, you know, abroad where it's in a formal setting, because some of these are not really in a formal setting in Africa or in Nigeria. So some of these activities are not documented, but possibly there are some publications that actually they've documented some of these uh, activities, and that's why I'm getting publications to see through, to look at collect data of how some of these practices, traditional singing practices, have actually worked.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right that sometimes it sounds to me like documenting these things can also legitimize them and legitimize them from a policy perspective. There may be, people may feel that singing at a festival is not as valuable as joining a church choir, but documenting it. And this is the power we have as academics to some extent when when we archive something or build a website about something or write an article about something, we legitimize it. And it sounds to me like your work can help change people's perspectives so they see these traditional singing practices as valuable rather than something old and that should be forgotten. I think we have, yeah, there we go. So those are, I want to say good work and, and keep at it.
Thank you
This is
very much.
important stuff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Yinka, is that okay? So we move to the next person, and that's the last person, and when we take the, so that is Bofilo Undlovu. Sorry if I've mispronounced the name. I hope Bofilo is around, so you can just say something briefly, 1-2 minutes, and you get a feedback so that you continue with the work. Bofilo, are you there? Okay, so Bufilo seems to be having maybe technical issue. Charity, do you want to say something on your work, or we should go on? Just drop in the chat if you are not yet.
Yeah, I think Charity put something in the chat that he's not ready.
Okay. So Bufilo, all right. So I think, Prof, we move on to what we have for today and the session.
Sounds good.
For me, what the only part is the Spark and the Spark and the Wikipedia. So I'm going to just briefly talk about another feature that might be relevant or very important to some of the research that we are currently doing, and where you may want to bring that into your work. So let me just pull that up. Okay. 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 So we would have heard about Wikipedia, and it's like Wikipedia is something that all of us know that has always been like an open way or source of data, but we know that there are other wikis too. So which are like where we have the one that shows geographical locations, the one that shows the map, and all these other ones. So combination of all of them is what comes together as a big public database, which is called the WikiData. And we talk about extracting our data set from various sources. Some of the research that we have presented, we extract from interview, creating that URLs as arrays, getting academic corpus PDF, uploading them. But also one of the team member in the person of Brandley, John Brandley, has done an elaborate work on what we can say the semantic web and then Wikidata. And it's from these that I am trying to now adapt it for this particular presentation. So Sparkle is just a query language which we use to extract things from Wikidata. And one feature in Spyral that is so important, which you might not need to use the code, but you can adapt the code for your own needs, will be the fetch. And it helps you to fetch data from this large database, and you're able to create your corpus from it. So we just have 2 blocks of code, and we don't need to go through what is inside the code so much, but we just know what does the code do. So what the code do is just it writes a kind of a sparkled question and select where. So if you see, for instance, if you want to edit this is the aspect you're going to edit. Like this particular one, I just edited this part and I said, get 5 Nigerian novelists for me from this large database. And then you can edit this part and for what you want. So let me drop, I can drop this in the chat later on. And then you can, so when you said it's fetch this, when we run it, and then it's going to go to the WikiData, and that is very fast because the data is already structured for what we call the API, Application Programming Interface, for it to easily fetch. And that means you can create a kind of a very large data set. So for now, it fetched Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, Zainab Kali, and these as 5 Nigerian novelists that is able to pick randomly. So this is actually where you do your query and you limit. So if, for instance, you say more like, let's say 20, for instance, and then we just run it. And one thing why I like this particular one is how fast it is. The fetching and the interrelation between Spyral and afterwards we can say, okay, one of those people, you want to go further in Spyral and said, okay, I want to get their works. And so it's automatically, so let's just pick that up, and from where you see the query again, so you're going to change, if you want to get more, you can change this, and then it fetched that of Chinua Achebe, as was given in this prompt there, and then description of their work. And like that. So for instance, if you want to work with this kind of structured data, generate visualization and all this, instead of you scraping the internet and doing all these things, you can make use of the large data set, which is the WikiData, and the interaction with it in Sparkle. This sometimes will require sometimes some form of a long coding and all sort of the interface, but Spyral being a browser that is JavaScript, and it works great with WikiData Sparkle endpoint, and that's why you see it fetches very fast. So I will advise you can play with these, and you can reach out to us for ways you want to adapt, or you have some of the research you're doing on climate or anything, on music, some of these already might be available somewhere else in the WikiData, and you can always reach out to us while you adapt it, and then we can be able to help you with it. Okay, so that is my own the aspect of the Spyral that I would like to highlight on this last day. Another aspect that I would like to highlight will be some of the things we are already doing, which is let me use Bufilo's notebook, for instance, that we're already doing, which is using Spyral for our documentation. And we know how to share it. We have been sharing it, some people have theirs downloaded and shared. Some people just send through the URL, and it takes you straight to that notebook, and various other ways of sharing. So one of the major things with this is, even if it's a research that is in progress, you see that sharing, and the continuous editing is another aspect you will like to look at, which takes us to the HTML and the CSS in Spyral. You might not need to always write this on your own, but you might just need to understand it, so that when you understand it, you can edit, or you can create your own, or know the aspect. If it scatters, you can be able to know. But you may see all this as bulky, and you can just do your editing right from here. That's another thing. So let's say, for instance, I make a typographical error, and I can just say questions, and so it's not compulsory that you have to work on it from the point of view of code or HTML. But I may just spend maybe a minute or two, and we take a look at what is actually going on here. And if for instance, now you have a draft of your own work that you want to do, you can give it to ChatGPT and any other thing and say, this is my work, create it as HTML, and then style it, and then you copy the code that it created, and you can come and pour here. So one of the major things is we want the paragraphs, and everything here is inside just one single container, which we're going to say like a div. And each of the sections are also separated into a div. So let's say, for instance, you look at the abstract section, and then you go to this icon here, and which is a kind of a source icon. And then when you move up, you realize that the first thing it does is style, but you have the abstract here. And I said that it's inside a div. So this div to this div, which is gives you the abstract. And then the abstract, let's say, is too big, you want it small, you can change the what we say, the heading number size here, or you can just change it directly here. So I would advise, like, starting up is just go to always like change your styling from here. And but if you want to use ChatGPT to be creating better styles for you, at least when you know what to do, when you copy the code, you put it here. So let's say, for instance, you know, the normal text formatting thing. So play with your notebook, try a lot of other things. And then I think we have some samples that you can always take a look at in the catalog. So when you go to the catalog, for instance, you can see some sample, and then if you like what is going on there, and you take it. So let's say we'll take a sample from there's a work. So let's say this, for instance. So let me close, like, you like this particular style, so you can simply come and, you know, take a look at what is done there and adapt it. So we won't go too much into this HTML, and maybe we can do that in another hackathon when you're already familiar with the interface, and you can do some HTML formatting for yourself and with the CSS. So thank you very much. That ends the CSS and HTML aspect, as well as the aspect that they actually do with API interaction using Sparkle through Spyral Notebook.
So, Augustine, do you mind if I just say a few words to wrap this up?
Yes.
So, I want to begin by really thanking Augustine for all the work he's done bringing this together, this hackathon, bringing the documentation together, planning this course, and so on like that. So thank you very much, Augustine, and for creating an opportunity for me to meet and hear about these cool projects. I hope all of you feel that Augustine and I are there to sort of and are interested in your projects and what you're doing, and you can stay in touch with us. I'm going to do a brief little pitch. Um, if you haven't already joined the Voyant Consortium, you should go to the Voyant Consortium website. This is a place where you can learn about, we have a gallery. You can go to all sorts of instructional materials and guides. And one of the things we'll be doing is adding more guides and stuff for Spyral. You can see example projects and video tutorials. You should also, if you haven't already, you should sign up for the consortium. So to sign up, you go to this consortium main page, you click where it says registration form, and you fill this out, and then you will get our newsletter and find out what's happening. Lastly, I'm just going to point out some of the different ways you can get help. So if you're in, sorry, I'm going to go, if you go to the Spyral tutorials page, you can always click on the question mark. You can, if you want to, go to the full documentation of the API, but we've got everything here from the tutorials to tool documentation and stuff like that. And I think I also mentioned how you can get to the raw documentation down here, just clicking on Voyant Tools, and this gives you Voyant and Spyral documentation. So you've got a full environment there. And so thank you again for participating in this. This is the first time we've run a hackathon like this. On Spyral, and so you guys were all very generous to be the guinea pigs of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing your projects. So I think I'm going to say goodbye and enjoy Spyral and tell us what to do, what you need.
Thank you, Prof. And before you go, this has been made possible by the team. And because we've been working for months to also Reggie Moore, Abel, Peter Owem, and many others from Ghana, from South Africa, and also Zimbabwe, Nigeria. So I would just give the floor to the two very important members of the team for the African Digital-Humanities Lab, as well as Digital-Humanity Practice in Africa, so that they can be able to appreciate Prof, because as he said, this is the first time he spent having this large number of time to give us an hackathon and training us to this level. So over to you, Abel and Regimo.
Thank you, Prof. Just there for the time that you gave us to train us on WEN tools as well as Spyral. We really appreciate the time, the patience, throughout. We appreciate that. We look forward to two things in future. We look forward to collaborations. We look forward also to have you in Africa and your team, coming to Africa and, for various kind of, activities that includes Voyant Tools and Spyral. And we also look forward to an opportunity where the Voyant, consortium in Africa, we can also come that side of the world and also get to learn. It can be a month, it can be some weeks. We get to interact with colleagues from there. We look forward to that kind of an exchange, program, across Africa. So we really appreciate and let this network, grow and maintain the momentum. Yeah.
Thank you, Abel.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Augustine, for this opportunity. And Prof, thank you very much for your teaching, your down-to-earth, very simple way of approaching these very complex things that many of us thought was a mystery. So knowing fully well that programming Voyant tools, Spyral has some difficulties attached to it, but giving it your all and helping us to see that beyond the difficulty, if we take time to practice and do the right things, we'll get a hold of it. And this is, for me, one of the best time academic career that things I've only imagined can actually happen in real time. And thank God for connectivity of the internet, that you can sit where you are in the space of your home, and then we are where we are, we can connect at this level. I think it's a blessing to us who are interested in growing, and we have limited opportunities. With this, I know that the Digital-Humanities Lab here in Africa, the consortium now for Voyant Consortium, would be better equipped to help our people. I'm sure you are aware that Africa has a very large population of researchers and people who are working very hard behind the scenes to transform their continent and the world at large. So with this information that we have, I'm very, very sure that many people will be better for it. And I'm sure in the next few days, or perhaps the next few months, you will see results from this hackathon going by the wonderful projects that our people here have shared. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and we hope to connect some more. Just like Professor Regimo has said, we want to connect more network.
Well, thank you both for
collaborations. Augustine, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, bye.
And I hope some of you will invite me and Augustine to drop in and give a. We're happy if you're teaching a class and we can drop in and give a short little introduction or something like that, or just a touch up. If you're working on a project and you've gotten stuck, drop us a line and we can take a look at your project and see. Yeah, see what you're doing because we learn a lot when we see what people actually do with Spyral. So I'm gonna say goodbye now. I have another meeting and I have to prepare for it but I hope to see you all again. And I hope to actually get to Africa. I love to travel. And so I'm going to start finding a way to, find the funding and stuff to come and do the grand tour of Voyant or something like that.
All right, bye. Bye, everyone.
Great. Okay, bye.
Bye.